Hello, welcome to our channel as we adjust our camera and ensure that the FBI is not messing with us. Welcome to our channel. We're going to go over some things nobody else will go over because they either don't know or they're too afraid to handle it, or they're paid by the Department of Defense to keep their mouths shut. Almost all right-wing videographers are paid by the Department of Defense, so we're going to go over things nobody else will cover. If you don't have your health, you have nothing. The deep state wants you sick. In fact, I'll go a step further. The deep state, probably most of them, want you dead. I've talked with a lot of these people in the deep state, and they have underground bases. And there's a place in Turkey, center of Turkey, that has, a guy was knocking down his basement, and he walked into this underground city that could hold 20,000 people. So they researched it with ground-penetrating radar, and there are 200 cities in Turkey alone that can hold 20,000 people for a prolonged period of time, years. And so they stated that over 4 million people in Turkey alone, that's why I know what happened in Iran was fake. There are 4 or 5 million people underground. So the deep state makes you sick. What the friggin' do you do about it? That should be WTF, right? WTF. So what do you do about it? Well, let's take you back 55 years ago when I was a little 12-year-old gardening. I liked the outdoors, and I was always outdoors. I had a 15 by 35 and a simple 8 by 12 garden that I experimented on. Garlic oil, everything else. I noticed that the Mexicans were dropping dead of cancer. And so they were using malathion on the tomatoes. And their cancer rate was through the roof. Cesar Chavez met with Jimmy Carter at the time, and Jimmy Carter actually did something good and recognized Cesar Chavez. So I started experimenting with everything from garlic oil, rubbing alcohol, to all kinds of things to get rid of aphids and gophers and everything else. Fast forward to my forestry class where we studied soils. But what I'm about to share with you is way beyond this. And I had gone through Army Advanced Officers class for lieutenants, and I had 400 books on the wall. 400. And I realized I was in a box. Just a box. So one day, I began to throw out those 400 books. And I said, what's dirt made of? How can I make a product that reverses tree diseases? Now, as a forester, I had walked through a ponderosa pine forest. And when you have a low brush fire, which is what the fires were before the Forest Service came in and destroyed the forest, they would come in and burn out the diseases and create an ash. And that smoke prevented the sprouting of tree diseases. So when they ban wood stoves, tree diseases in the cities are skyrocketing because the city people are stupid. They hire affirmative action employees. And smoke smells bad, we got to get rid of it. Well, that's what prevents the spread of diseases in plants. So of course Satan's going to outlaw it. So this is a basic soil particle. That's what it looks like. Under the magnifying glass, you get down to basics, that's it. And on the outside of the soil particle is calcium and nitrogen and potassium, and there's some oxygen in the soil, and so on and so forth. Well, what has happened is, yeah, we got all these pens, right? The acid rain, acid from automobiles and plants that burn petroleum, instead of using water-powered automobiles or static electricity-controlled mobiles, the acid washes some of these nutrients away. And at a high acidity, the plants may not be able to absorb very much calcium or potassium. So what we have is we also have blobs of oil on the outside of the cell, of the soil cells. And these globules of oil prevent nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, and 17 other elements from surrounding the soil particle. So the plant roots go down into Here's the plant root, and here's the mycorrhiza, bacteria. And the bacteria, which doesn't live in acid rain, absorbs these nutrients for the plants. So so when I finally looked at a soil particle, how do you get rid of the acid rain and the oil particles? Well, the U.S. Army figured out in 1945 that if they feed individuals in the Philippines, they use cement troughs, hydroponically grown vegetables, that means with water and nutrients, that the soldiers' diabetes went away, because half of combat fatigue is diabetes, because you eat crap food and you're out there 24/7 under stress, and you get your feet cracked, you get fungus on your feet, trench foot, and because you're always under stress. We all know stress uses certain nutrients. And so you eat crap food and you get diabetes and you get combat fatigue. Now about half the combat fatigue is people stress out or artillery shell going off. When an artillery shell goes off next to you, your head hurts, I promise you. I've had it happen. The closer you are, the more your head hurts. Until it doesn't hurt because you're dead. So what do? You do two things. One, you add soap. Sure, you add calcium to sweeten the soil and get rid of the acid particles. But then you add soap. And the soap removes the fat particles that surround the cells. So more calcium, potassium, more of it can surround the cell. The second thing you do is you add a hydroponic formula. The Army published the hydroponic formula, which we've published. There's 15 elements essential for plant life and 17 for human life, and chrome is not one of them. Chrome is not an essential element. They threw that in because they were having problems with leaching from stainless steel tanks into the fertilizer manufacturer, so they had high levels of chrome, so they found out that chrome, what it does is it increases your metabolism because you're allergic to it and you supposedly lose weight. Never did a thing for me. So I ran into a guy who tried to manufacture the hydroponic formula, and Monsanto shut him down. Pulled back his magnesium sulfate order. Destroyed his company. So we said, well, what do we do? Well, there wasn't a we, that was me. What do I do if Monsanto or DuPont do the same crap to me? Because they're nothing but people who want you sick and dead. Talk to their directors. They want the human race obliterated. They're walking, talking demons. So what you do is you come up with a commercially available formula. Well, Miracle-Gro created, Frank Stankovic bought a hydroponic formula and took the magnesium sulfate out of it. And then sold it on the East Coast primarily because magnesium sulfate is a deposit from the coal, so they didn't need more magnesium sulfate. So you take Miracle-Gro, you add magnesium sulfate, and you add turgitol. Well, turgitol was used by Allied Chemical and is still used by Allied Chemical and boosts your blood sugar level in a fake way because it shorts out the machine. So when you eat broccoli, your blood sugar level is going to be high, so they give you diabetes medication. That was the original Imusisty. Works incredibly well on the human body. Works incredibly well to eliminate pests and to reduce the use of fertilizers. So if you use a hydroponic formula, Miracle-Gro, Epsom salt, and soap, the green palm olive soap is a neodol soap that they use now instead of turgitol because the Queen of England got her filthy, dirty little demonically possessed nose in it and outlawed the turgitol for use in your kitchen sink, which was non-toxic. Much better on your skin than the neodols. So I experimented with neodols and came up with the green palm olive soap. Had a whole cupboard. In fact, the chemical companies cooperated with me in this. They sent me like 15, 20 different kinds of neodols. My whole cupboard up there was filled with neodols. Some were hard like soap and some were soft. Some make bubbles, some are surfactants and strip the grease out. So now that we figured out how to use 1 pound of Miracle-Gro, 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt, and 8 ounces of green palm olive soap, and you no longer need fertilizers. And what they're doing now is they're fertilizing with NPK and creating wheat and corn and potatoes that don't need the other elements. So you eat food and you think you're getting all 17 elements essential for life, and you're not. So let's fast forward to the human body, because probably 90% of you don't have chickens. 90% of you don't have a farm. We have a little farm here. Leave it to the farmers to fix America. But they're being destroyed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. One by one by one, they're being destroyed. So there can't be any farmers. So you can't eat. So between the NOAA contracts flooding people out, which we all saw, and the NASA dries in air, which we all saw killing people, what we have is a nasty situation. Now this is a human cell. It's got a nucleus with DNA in it, and the RNA goes in there and tells the cell what to do, and it's got mitochondria all over the place. And if it gets old, it starts to shrivel up because it can't absorb any of the water. Why? Because it doesn't have the nutrient base. Nitrogen, let's see, C. Hopkins, cafe, calcium, iron, hydrogen, oxygen, potassium, nitrogen, phosphorus, all that. So it doesn't have the nutrients, so it shrivels up. So I remember in a nucleobiological and chemical class in 1989, a short little guy about that round was at Hiroshima, and we talked, because I aced everything in the Army, always got straight A's. But I missed a question, and I went to ask him about the question. He says, yeah, absolutely, you're right. He said, we'll have to take the certificate of appreciation away from this sergeant. I said, give it to him, I don't care about the score. But he said, we'll change it on the next test. I said, that's fine. I'm here to help people, not hurt people. Give him the certificate. It means more to him than me. I mean, this guy's a poor, 22-year-old sergeant who has nothing behind his name. So the cells in the human body accumulate fat. And they also don't work if they're too acidic, which is why the alkaline diet works. And they're coated with fat cells. And the other cells are coated with fat cells, which cause them to clog up and clog your veins and your arteries. Now, Ed Skilling's machine blows up viruses. Ed Skilling has a very successful machine. If you've got $20,000, I suggest you get it. The infrared jazzes up the cells, and then they start to work. Coach Jimmy Kay's magnetic mat and the electronic device add energy directly to the cells, and it jazzes up the cells. But these fat particles glom on to other cells. And then you get the clogging of the cells. So what do? Just like in dirt, the acid rain destroys the cell's ability to absorb nutrients. It shrinks up and dies and goes cancerous. Just like in radiation poisoning, shrinks up the cells, pokes holes in the cells, they leak and they die. You need to remove the fat, the acid, and provide nutrients. There's 17 essential nutrients for a human cell and only 15 in a plant. And in many of the genetically modified foods, there's only 10 that they use to grow the plant. So you're being nutrient starved. Plus, and I didn't realize this, my pemphigoid came back when I started using liquid Advil again. That uses particular nutrients, stresses your kidney and liver lobes out, and you get really sick. And every medication you use uses particular nutrients, such as potassium or phosphorus or B1 or B7. Totally puts your body out of sequence. Because you see, if you eat calcium supplements, you can't absorb the magnesium. If you eat magnesium supplements, you can't absorb the zinc. If you eat the zinc supplements, you can't absorb the iron. So on and so forth. And your body's robbed of nutrients and it goes cancerous. We see this in tree branches where You look up, it's called witch's broom. A logger always looks up at a tree. If there's a witch's broom, he cuts it from the other side. Because the witch's broom, the needles have no zinc in them, so they grow cancerous. Where's the zinc going? But all the other branches are fine. It's going to the mistletoe right here. It eats all the zinc. Paul Zinke discovered that, my professor. So was Professor UC Berkeley. So the trees are growing cancerous. So what's the solution? You feed it a hydroponic formula and the branch gets plenty of zinc. But the soil particles in the human cells are coated with fat, which cause them to clog up and block the ability of your blood to give you oxygen. So what's the solution? "17 nutrients through sea vegetables." Oh, also the cell phone knocks the iron out of the cell. 2.4 gigahertz. And with no iron in your cells go cancerous. Your fingers get numb. 100 million Americans have numb fingers because of the cell phone. The 5G on the cell towers is not to run your cell phone, it's to fry you. They still run on 4G, that's why the internet has not sped up. It has not sped up at all. And if you think the deep state doesn't want you dead or want you sick, look at the poisonous food, what they're spraying on us, and the fluoride in the water. RFK didn't eliminate the fluoride. They want you sick and dead, which fluoride slows you down and makes you fat. So you need 17 essential elements. You need to eat a more basic diet, which sea vegetables provides from get the tea. Also, their spirulina is almost the same nutritional content as the seaweed. So if there are sea vegetables, you get the spirulina. So let's take away these fat cells. And what happens? Well, what happens is the cells don't clog up. Your myelin sheaths, which coat the nerves, here's a nerve cell, and here's the myelin sheath. To protect the nerve cells, doesn't get the nutrients, the myelin sheath dissolves, the nerve cells are exposed, and you get all kinds of nasty things. Now there's heart cells in your heart, or brain cells in your heart, and there's brain cells in your brain. So what does that mean to you and me? What it means is as the nerves are degraded, you get a degradation of the heart and of the brain. And what we've discovered, and I went to a clinic on this when I first started, and they said they had a 95% reversal rate on all cancers simply using seaweed. When we eliminate the fat cells and we add the Imusisty, the cells can now absorb the nutrients. And as the cells absorb the potassium and nitrogen and phosphorus and all 17 other essential elements, the cell starts to act and the metabolism increases. I lost 100 pounds when I started eating seaweed. 100 pounds. The metabolism, went from 295, now I'm down to 190 this morning. So the cell swells back up because now, what's the success rate of Imusisty alone on Alzheimer's, autism, and cancer? Well, if somebody eats food, it's pretty dang close to 90 to 95%. When you add it with a sea vegetable, which is, well, when I got into this, the reversal rate was 95%, and the reversal rate was 95%. So you put that out, we have a 99% reversal rate on MS, which is the degradation of the myelin sheath, Parkinson's, which is holes in the brain, which are developed because you smoke dope or cigarettes, or maybe you're just under high stress and your nutrients. You see, the cell also needs things like B1, C vitamins, A vitamins, D vitamins, E vitamins, F vitamins, so on and so forth. And if the cell is coated with fat, it can't absorb them. All of a sudden the fat's gone and the cell's absorbing the nutrients, it swells back up. Guess what happens to the cancer cells? They start swelling back up and absorb the nutrients, and suddenly the DNA starts working. Now this is what I have found out. Now why isn't this mainstream? It's way beyond money. They want you sick, and many of these leaders want you dead. You want to doubt it? Go talk to the head of Monsanto. Go talk to the head of the IBM. Go talk to them. Go talk to the director of the VA. They want veterans dead. They're getting $150 billion to treat 3 million veterans. Because, well, 2.7 million, because out of the 27 million veterans, only 10% go to the VA hospitals because they want their antipsychotic drugs. So this is how it works. When they came in and analyzed my wife, at 70, she has 0 occlusions. They were stunned. When they did a whole body analysis on me, I had no plaque buildup, no blood clot. So my wife is spending our profits from YouTube, which we will never commercialize now, because I don't believe in the crap they're selling on YouTube right now. I can't believe in the crap they're selling. I believe in what we're doing. And I'm going to stay that course, the hell with money. So that's why Imusisty works. And it's been a research project from age 12 to age 55. And I looked, we knew the hydroponic formula. I must have tried 50 different surfactants and soaps. And finally I ran into Imusisty. And the new Imusisty formula is so much better than the old Imusisty formula. It's all natural. Collagen, things like that. Anyway, God bless. Thank you very much. The mind can absorb what the rare can endure, and we'll see you tomorrow.